Good afternoon, everyone. This is County Executive Pat Ryan. Thank you for making time to catch up with us today and hear what's going on with COVID. Today will be a pretty straightforward update. We're really just going to focus on the COVID numbers and how we're doing, which is very good overall. And then a little bit of a teaser for what our next update will be. So to the numbers and to the data, as always, we have now had 2,091 total cumulative COVID cases since the beginning of the epidemic. That is out of over 62,000 residents tested. So our testing capacity continues to increase, and we're continuing to work on that, especially in anticipation of heading back to school for many school districts and for folks continuing to get back to work. We have to make sure that that testing capacity remains robust, and we definitely have that in place. Unfortunately, we added one more fatality to our tally, and now we're at 92 of our residents who have lost their lives to COVID. This was the individual who, at our last update, was in the hospital fighting, and unfortunately did succumb to COVID. So this is it's a tragic reminder of how deadly COVID still can be, and that we cannot let our guard down. Although we are overall, as I said, doing well, it's still very real, unfortunately. In a more positive note, we have had 1,858 of our residents that have had COVID and recovered. I do know, though, that for many that have recovered, it's not an overnight, immediate thing, and we've received some notes from members of our community. I got one last week from a mother whose daughter has been on a very long road to recovery, and I know that we've talked to others for whom this isn't just back to normal. We know there are lasting impacts for folks in their health, and there are still many physical symptoms. So I do want to recognize that and let folks know that are recovering, that we're still here and supporting you as you do that as well. And let us know what you need, and if there's anything, of course, we can do to help, we're here for you. Hospital numbers. We are at 0 hospital beds right now occupied by COVID patients. And I do want to, again, remind folks that hospitals are open for other needs, surgeries and other needs, and we can't let COVID be a complete blocker to doing all the other health things required, all the public health screenings and testing and any procedures. Taking care of our overall health is very important, even in the midst of the pandemic. And so know that our hospitals are ready and safe and have put in place all those protocols to take care of us and get you what you need. We have 100 active, in terms of active cases, we have 141 active cases of COVID in Ulster County. You can see that pretty steady line there on the graph. I do want to note, I think it's important context, that of the 141 active, almost half, 62 of those, are inmates in our state, 2 of our state prisons here in the county. The good news is we have seen those numbers of inmates with active cases go down. So from those tests we did about 2 weeks ago, we're seeing inmates recovering, thankfully, but we still have 62 active cases that are being tracked in those 2 facilities in Waukill and Changum that count towards our overall number of 141 active. In terms of new positive cases and what is the new infection rate in the county, very encouraged by the numbers in the last few days and really the last few weeks. In the last 24 hours, we tested 566 residents and had only 5 new positive COVID cases, so that's a 0.88% infection rate, below 1%, which is good news. Excuse me, and we want to, of course, continue to keep it that way, and we'll talk about that in a moment. And in terms of our long-term and mid-term looking out hospital capacity, we're in great shape there. More than sufficient need for the near-term, medium-term, and long-term. And and we retain the ability to always surge that up if God forbid we need to. As we transition into the beginning of the transition into the weekend, I do want to give some brief updates on what's going on with school reopenings, and we'll be talking more about this in the next day or two. We'll be releasing a much more detailed plan and additional information about our support as the county in managing the public health crisis, our support for our school districts. We have 9 different school districts in the county. The governor, of course, has essentially given authority to the school districts at their level to make those decisions about how to reopen and when, how much in person, how much remote. So they have all submitted their plans. All of our Ulster County schools submitted their plans. They are now, based on the governor's guidance last week, updating and adding a little more detail specifically around testing, contact tracing. Those are 2 specific areas that the governor asked for more information on. So this week, myself and our team, we've spent significant time with our superintendents, principals, teachers, and other educators, working through those details, making sure they have everything they need to finalize those plans. And our health team will really play a very key role in responding and ultimately in supporting each of those districts as they choose to move forward in whatever way they're going to do so. So I know some of our districts, I believe New Paltz and Saugerties at least, have delayed their in-person openings back to October. Other districts are weighing those decisions. And so, again, in the next day or two, there will be much more detail coming from us about our plans as a county to support each of those districts. But I want all the parents and teachers and young people out there to know that a lot of time, thought, and really care is being put into thinking through all of these steps to make sure that as we tackle this very, very difficult challenge of how to keep people educated and supported, how we do it, of course, safely and responsibly. I think the good news is we've shown our ability to do this in many other ways in many other places. Part of our plan will be really a rapid response team, just like we've done with our senior facilities, just like we've done with the various clusters we've had emerge. So these are, to borrow a sports analogy, these are plays that we know how to run. It'll be a little bit different, of course, in the school environment, but those are the details that we're working through and finalizing now. So be on the lookout for that, and we'll share that with you all as soon as we have those details finalized. And I really want to thank and recognize our school leaders, our superintendents, principals, teachers, for all of the time and thought that they've been putting into this process. And there's more work to do, of course, and of course we'll need to actually implement these plans. But I'm proud of, as a collective community, how much, again, thought and care is really going into trying to do this the right way. Shifting gears just for a moment, again, as one more reminder, I'm gonna continue to beat the drum on this a little bit. With our budgetary and financial situation, I think it's important to briefly call attention to the fact that we still, as a county, and the predominance of the counties and towns and local governments in New York State, have not received any direct relief or support from the federal government to plug what are huge gaps, both from increased expenses due to things like setting up testing sites, hiring more nurses, buying PPE, all the things we've been doing for COVID. So we're increasing our expenses, and our revenues, our money coming in, is declining due to the economy contracting, due to losses in sales tax revenue. So it's really a double whammy of less money coming in and more going out, which is the same challenge that I know so many of our residents have as well, on the personal and the family level. So all of us, not just as a government, but all of us at the individual level too, are really in great need of support and direct relief from the federal government. So one more time, I want to put out the call to even though that the Congress and the Senate in particular wasn't able to get to a deal last week, which was disappointing and frankly, I think a little bit embarrassing, to be honest. All hope is not lost. There's still a window to try to come together and see if we can, for the greater public good, come to some agreement to get some relief in terms of unemployment, business loans and support, more funding for testing, funding for our schools that are trying to figure out how to open safely and responsibly, and of course, funding for our governments who have really been on the front lines of this response at the local level. So if you do want to reach out to our representatives, they have been allies in this. Our federal representatives, from Congressman Delgado to Senator Schumer and Gillibrand. It's really Senate Republicans and Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell that have been blocking on this. And I do think it's important to call that out because this is a pretty dire situation at this point. So if you want to make your voice heard, here's the info on the screen to either call or email. And I'd encourage us to keep up the pressure and hold those folks accountable because we know it's not just our problem here in Ulster County or New York State, but it's a national problem as the cases and hospital numbers and ultimately deaths are continuing to increase in almost all of the rest of the country. To not act in that moment, it's honestly, it's baffling to me. So please keep your voice up on that. With that brief public service request complete, we'll wrap it up here. As always, I want to end by thanking, we thanked our teachers and educators in particular, but all of our frontline workers that are continuing to get us through this. We appreciate you and what you're doing and all the pressures and challenges that you're facing. And let's continue to try to just remember that each of us have these roles to play, that at the individual level, we want to continue to understand that our actions impact others and that we need to wear masks and distance and wash hands and do those things. And at a community level, we all have to stick together and hang in there together. So thanks to those that have made that possible. If you need help, we'll end on this note. If you need help, we are here for you. We've set up our recovery service center. We get dozens, if not over 100 calls a day across the board of different needs, and we want to see those numbers go up. Don't hesitate to reach out if you have issues. You can call our recovery service center at 845-443-8888 or send us an email, go to our website, and please, again, there's absolutely no shame, especially in this time, in asking for any kind of help that you need. So we'll get you pointed in the right direction. Thanks to everybody that tuned in. Stay cool out there, stay safe and healthy, and be resilient. Our next update will be Tuesday afternoon at 2 p.m. If you're looking for something to do this weekend, we do have our Ulster County drive-in movie night happening on Friday and Saturday night, so check that out. You can sign up at ucmovienights.com or go to our county website for that information. But we've got some great stuff lined up there. I want to thank Radio Kingston for their partnership on that effort, but more broadly helping us to produce and get these updates out. Thank you to Diane and Manuel and everyone else that helps us continue to keep the public updated. So we will talk to you on Tuesday. Thank you.